Okay, now it's time to actually drill down into the profiles. And the very first one that we're going to drill down with and talk about is the accomplisher. Now, if you remember from the previous modules, all four of the profiles are as equally as important. And there is no particular order in which we present them. However, the accomplisher is going to give us wonderful insights into the value system of the individual because it reflects their leadership, their drive, their sense of achievement, and where they want to be in life. So if you remember the four profiles, the accomplisher, the influencer, the associator, and the contributor, the accomplisher represents leadership and drive. All four are as equally as important, but everyone has a dominant and everybody has subordinate profiles. So this module is going to deal with the dominant accomplisher. And again, the results between 0 and 100% show us which are the dominants, which are the subordinates. That then equates to their personal source code. Now also, if you remember from the previous modules, we talk about the three core competencies: sales and marketing, customer service skills, business administration, and HR management, the ability to manage teams, and product and technical skills. And here you'll see, as a result of our research, the accomplisher is green all the way across. So think of this like a stoplight. You have green for go, you have yellow for caution, and you have red for poor. So the accomplisher is green all the way across, not because they're good at sales and marketing, but they are going to hire people based on skills and competencies who will get the job done. They are good at the business administration and the HR management, and they're also very good at the product and the technical skills. So as opposed to the other profiles, they are definitely going to hire somebody that represents the skills and the competencies that they need to have in order to achieve their end goal, the results of the accomplisher. So we're going to talk about leadership and drive and the accomplisher. And as we said before, they are big picture people, which means they're looking at everything from about 60,000 feet. That gives them a unique perspective because it's almost like being on a swivel chair. They can deal with a new hire, they can deal with a landlord, they can deal with an advertising agency, they can deal with family issues, they can multitask, where a lot of the profiles can't. And depending upon where they score between 0 and 100%, they could have very big goals and very strong business skills and a high drive for accomplishment and achievement. But the one thing to remember about the accomplisher is that they don't need accolades. They don't want accolades. These are not the kinds of people that you should bring up to a stage and in front of a group of people talk about how strong they are and what their accomplishments are. They're more internally sorted. They know in their own minds if they've done a good job. And they know in their own minds if they are reaching or are on their way towards obtaining their goals. They can manage teams, and they do have lots of long-term goals. So as we said, these are big picture people. They can multitask and deal with many situations at the same time. They're very competent, they're very driven, bottom line individuals who have already acquired a certain degree of success and want to leverage what they have achieved. If they're younger and they don't have the degree of success, what you need to understand is that they're going to have lofty goals depending upon where they score between 0 and 100%. They do have, however, have a natural talent to lead, delegate, and empower others as long as it fits into their particular goals. And again, they don't need the recognition. So one thing is, you cannot judge a book by its cover, and that is especially true about the accomplisher, because they're not going to be wearing fancy clothes. They're not going to be driving nice, expensive cars. That's not important to them. They're very subtle, very internal. They don't need impact or input from outside, from the others. These are the empire builders. Smaller percentage of the U.S. population. These are movers and shakers, executives, and leaders. Now, one thing that we've learned as we've done as many surveys as we have, and we've interviewed and we've researched each of the profiles, is we've begun to understand what their fears are, because it's very important that in order to move a person forward, whether it's in a new position, whether it's a new business, whatever it might be, is you need to overcome their fears. And the fear of the accomplisher is not being part of something that's very unique or the best. Now, here's really some very interesting information. We've learned that at 45%, everybody scores at 45%, the desire for accomplishment is just now beginning. Now, behavior can change. It can change as we grow older. It can change as somebody becomes more adapted to a particular position, a business, whatever it might be. There are influences that will drive the scores up or down. But naturally, at about 45%, it's beginning to start. We really want to look for somebody in the 60s. At 65%, the desire for the accomplishment accelerates, becomes stronger. But here's what happens. When it gets too high, when it gets 90% and above, they are incredibly entrepreneurial. Now, that means if they're going to be in business for themselves, they're going to be highly manipulative and want to be in absolute control. Now, what that says is, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, they're highly entrepreneurial, but from a business standpoint, they're not going to fit into a franchise, because what they're going to do is they're going to want to look at how they can change it, how they can enhance it, and their input in a lot of cases is important, but they're not going to follow formats. They're going to want to change the formats. So remember, what differentiates the navigator from all the other personality profiles is values. So when you're communicating with somebody that's a dominant accomplisher, words like success, challenges, achievement, income, dignity, respect, power, quality, end results, uniqueness, control, winning are words that are going to resonate with them. And from a business standpoint, they're going to seek something that's medium risk, not high risk. Then in any kind of position, sales or business ownership, they're going to want steady growth, a business and industry that promises potential. In a business environment, they may want to consider owning more than one location, or in a sales environment, having multiple territories or areas in which they can develop. Very strong in the B2B because they get it, they understand it, they can communicate with others that are like-minded, but also understand what's very important to the accomplisher is to have an exit strategy. So the kinds of business and the business focus and preferences is they want something that shows the potential for a lot of growth. The kind of business is not important. In other words, they're not predisposed to mufflers, hot dogs, hair salons. It really doesn't matter to them. What they want is they want something that has potential. And they're also not adverse to competition. They like competition. They'll take it heads on. Location is going to be very critical because it's got to be in a marketplace that is going to be able to get them to where they want to be and help them to reach their goals. And again, as we mentioned, they can handle a large staff, but they're also going to be looking at building empires. So market domination is something that's very important to them. Their strengths are they're very results-driven, hardworking people, good delegators, good managers, not driven by ego. They are success-driven. They're good problem solvers. They want efficiency. They're going to hire somebody to do the details because it's tedious and they want to stay at a higher level. But remember, the one key here, whether it's in business, ownership, or in just moving their lives forward, is they're going to bring on people and they're going to surround themselves with people based on competencies and skills, not based on relationships, friendships, and family. They need a lot of control in their life. They're going to want it. They're going to demand it. They need and demand profit and growth. That's expected. And they're also going to expect competency from whoever they work with, whether it's a company or their employees. Very low tolerance level because they feel that that's going to bring them back down as opposed to move them forward. And they do want to have a direct influence on policy, especially as it affects them and affects where they want to be in life. From a weakness standpoint, they dislike indecision and incompetence of any kind from anybody. Again, remember, low tolerance. They prefer in a franchise that the franchisor have a hands-off approach, give them the information, teach them how to run the business, and stand back. So that means they could be very inflexible in some situations, and it may also mean they want to be inactive in daily unit operations. So one thing that we'd want to make sure is that they don't distance themselves too far from the business. That is the accomplisher, a dominant accomplisher. And even though all of the profiles are equally as important, we'll learn a lot by looking at the percentages of the accomplisher.